I'm Laura Thompson, and if you're watching this, thank you from the bottom of my heart for joining me today. Before I dive into my story, a tale that shattered my world but ultimately set me free, I'd love to know where you're tuning in from. Drop your city in the comments below. It always warms my heart to see how far these stories travel. Maybe you're in sunny LA, bustling New York, or right here in the windy city of Chicago like me. All right, let's get into it. This is the story of how I uncovered a web of lies on my son's wedding day and how one act of courage changed everything. Buckle up. It's emotional, it's raw, and it's real. It was the morning of June 15th, 2024, a date etched into my soul forever. I woke up at 4:30 a.m. in our cozy suburban home in Oak Park, just outside Chicago. The house was quiet, the kind of quiet that amplifies every creak and whisper. I couldn't sleep. My mind was a whirlwind of excitement and that nagging mom worry. You know the kind. Will the flowers wilt in the heat? Will the DJ play the right songs? But deep down, it was more than that. I slipped out of bed, careful not to wake my husband, Richard, and padded downstairs to my little home bakery nook. I run a small custom cake business, nothing fancy, just heartfelt creations that help pay the bills and put our son Ethan through college. That morning, I stared at the tiered masterpiece I'd baked for the wedding, vanilla sponge with raspberry filling, Ethan's favorite since he was a kid licking batter off the spoon. Our backyard was set up for the ceremony, string lights twinkling like stars over Lake Michigan on a clear night, white chairs in neat rows facing the wooden arbor Richard had built last summer. I planted wildflowers around it myself, nurturing them through Chicago's brutal winters. Everything had to be perfect for Ethan. He was 24, our only child, the light of our lives. Richard and I had been married 26 years, high school sweethearts who met at a Cubs game, bonding over hot dogs and home runs. I was the steady one, the planner who balanced the checkbook and remembered every anniversary. Richard was the dreamer, a marketing exec at a downtown firm, always charming the room with his stories and smiles. We'd built a good life. Barbecues with neighbors, holidays at the family cabin in Wisconsin, cheering Ethan on at his Little League games. But lately, cracks had appeared. Richard's late nights at client dinners, his phone glued to his hand, screen angled away. When I asked, he'd flash that grin. Just work stress, babe. Big campaign coming up. I believed him, or wanted to. After all, you don't throw away decades over a hunch. The soft click of footsteps pulled me from my thoughts. It was Ethan, in his plaid pajamas, rubbing sleep from his eyes. He looked so much like his dad, tall with those warm brown eyes, but he had my thoughtful heart. "Mom, you're up already? The wedding's not till 3 p.m. He poured himself coffee, black, like always. "Just making sure your cake's flawless, sweetie," I said, forcing a smile. But I could see the shadows under his eyes, the way his shoulders slumped. "Dad left early," he muttered, sitting at the kitchen island. "Said he had to grab something for Sophia's folks, the Hargroves." I frowned. That was news to me. The Hargroves were old money from the North Shore, their dad a big-shot lawyer, mom a socialite. Sophia was 23, a sharp accountant at the Loop firm, with that polished beauty that turned heads. On paper, she was perfect for Ethan. Ambitious, kind, or so I thought, sharing his love for hiking in the dunes. But I'd noticed things, her distracted glances during family dinners, how she'd light up when Richard shared his work tales. Ethan set his mug down hard. "Mom, can I ask you something? Do you think Sophia really loves me?" My heart stuttered. "Of course, honey. Why?" He stared at the counter, tracing patterns in the granite. "It's probably nerves, but she's been pulling away, and she's always talking to Dad about investments, career advice, says he's like a mentor." A chill ran down my spine. I'd seen it too. Richard's lingering hugs, how he knew her coffee order, iced latte with oat milk, the way his eyes followed her. But I pushed it down. "Weddings are scary, Ethan. It's a big commitment." "It's more than that," he whispered, voice cracking. "I think she's in love with someone else." The words hung heavy, like Chicago fog. What makes you say that? Little things. She smiles differently when Dad texts. Yesterday, I saw them in the backyard, heads close, laughing. It didn't feel right. My stomach twisted. Elijah's, no, Ethan's pain mirrored my own buried doubts. I wanted to scream, to tell him I'd felt the distance too. Instead, I hugged him tight, inhaling his familiar scent of shampoo and hope. We'll figure it out, sweetie. I promise. Just then, Richard breezed in, dressed sharp in khakis and a polo, smelling of fresh cologne. Morning, my loves. Big day ahead. His smile faltered, seeing us. Everything okay? Ethan stiffened. Sophia's coming over at 11 to finalize seating. Oh, right, Richard said smoothly. Her parents are picky about who sits where. Avoid that uncle of yours after last Thanksgiving's politics rant. He clapped Ethan on the back. Private chat, son. Family stuff. The air thickened with unspoken tension. As they left, a dread settled in my bones, cold as a Lake Michigan winter. Something was rotting in our perfect family, and I couldn't ignore it anymore. I canceled my morning cake delivery, lied about a migraine, and paced the house, heart pounding. At 11 sharp, Sophia's Audi pulled up. She stepped out, stunning in yoga pants and a crop top, hair in a perfect ponytail. I watched from the upstairs window as Richard greeted her at the door, his hand on her shoulder a beat too long.
I couldn't breathe. Sneaking downstairs, I hid behind the half-open study door, ears straining. Their voices drifted from the living room. "You're tense," Richard murmured. "Everything okay?" Sophia's laugh, light and flirtatious. "Just wedding jitters. Ethan's so safe, but you get me, Richard." My world tilted. Peeking through the crack, I saw them by the fireplace, our family photo spot where we'd posed for Christmas cards year after year. His hand on her waist, her fingers tracing his arm. Then they kissed, deep, hungry, like lovers starved. Rage boiled in me, hot, blinding. I nearly burst in, screaming betrayal. But a shadow in the hall stopped me. Ethan, face like granite, eyes wet with unshed tears. He met my gaze, whispered, "Mom, I know, and it's worse than you think." We slipped outside, crouching behind the lilac bushes I'd planted for our 20th anniversary. The scent was cloying, mocking our shattered dreams. Inside, they'd moved to the couch, our couch, where Ethan had learned to read, where Richard and I had shared late-night talks. "I've known for weeks," Ethan confessed, voice trembling. "Saw them at a coffee shop downtown, hands intertwined. Hired a PI." "A PI?" I gasped, tears streaming. "Ethan, the cost." "Worth it." He showed me his phone, photos of hotel check-ins at the Drake, dinners at Alinea, Richard's car in hidden lots. 17 occasions, timestamps damning. The betrayal hit like a freight train, not fling, a full affair. My husband, my rock, stealing moments with my son's bride-to-be. I sobbed silently, clutching Ethan as our world crumbled. "But we're not confronting now," Ethan said, eyes fierce. "We expose them at the wedding, publicly. Let them burn." His relentlessness scared me, but the pain fueled it. "Tell me the plan." That night, after Richard's fake cheer about his father of the groom speech, Ethan and I huddled in my bakery nook, door locked. He'd called my sister Mia, a retired CPD detective now running her own PI firm. I hadn't confided in her about our marital drift. Pride kept me silent. But now, the floodgates opened. "Laura, it's midnight," Mia answered, alert. "What's wrong?" Everything poured out. The kiss, the photos, Ethan's anguish. I cried like I hadn't since Mom's funeral, raw, gut-wrenching. Mia sighed. "I'm not shocked. Saw how he eyed her at Easter brunch. I've got more." Her investigation revealed horrors. Richard and Sophia met weekly at luxury spots, cash payments hiding tracks. But deeper, monthly transfers for 16 years to Vanessa Ruiz, a former colleague. She has a son, Alex, 16, No father listed. DNA prelim, 99.99% Richards. A secret child. 16 years of lies. I pictured holidays, vacations, all tainted. How? I choked. He's sloppy. And the money? He's drained $70,000 from your joint IRA, forged your signature, funded hotels, jewelry for Sophia. Nausea hit. Our nest egg, built from my bakery sweat and his bonuses, pilfered for deceit. And Sophia, Mia continued, she's embezzling from her firm. Fake expenses, shell accounts, over $250,000 in 2 years. Some went to gifts for Richard. A Rolex, trips. She even conned him into an investment that funneled straight to her. A twisted cycle. Him stealing from us for her stealing from work and him for gifts back. Poetic justice in the ugliness. We met Mia the next day in a parked car near Millennium Park, tourists oblivious to our storm. She handed over files, bank docs, photos, DNA report. This is fraud, Laura. Jail time for her, civil suit for him. Exhaustion warred with fury. Can we do this in front of 250 guests? Mia gripped my hand. Private confrontation? They'll gaslight you. Public, no escape. It's justice. Ethan nodded. For us, Mom. For the family they destroyed. The plan solidified. Mia posing as AV tech for the slideshow, evidence projected at the speak now moment, divorce papers ready, police tipped for Sophia's arrest. Wedding day dawned bright, mocking. I played the part, hugging aunts from Milwaukee, adjusting Richard's tie with numb fingers. He whispered, "You're everything to me, Laura." Bile rose. Ethan, in his tux, met my eyes, steel resolve. Sophia arrived glowing in ivory silk, vows exchanged, lies layered on lies. Speak now or forever hold your peace. I stood, heart thundering. Gasps rippled. Richard hissed, "Laura, sit!" "I object," I declared, voice booming, "because my husband and the bride are lovers." I hit the remote, screen lit, kiss photo, then hotels, banks, embezzlement proofs. Finally, Alex's photo, DNA bold. Chaos erupted. Screams, phones out. Sophia fainted dramatically. Richard bolted, but Mia tripped him. Cups arrested Sophia mid-aisle, cups clicking over lace. Aftermath. Media frenzy. Chicago wedding nightmare. Divorce swift. I kept the house, recouped funds. Sophia pled guilty. 3 years prison. Richard fired. Isolated. But healing came slow. Meeting Alex, Richard's son, was wrenching. At a Wrigleyville diner, his eyes mirrored Richard's, but his smile was shy, innocent. Ethan embraced him like a lost brother. We built anew. Dinners, Cubs games, real bonds. A year later, Richard appeared, broken, apologizing. I forgave. For me. Life bloomed. Bakery thrived. Ethan engaged to a teacher. Alex part of holidays. The first week after the wedding that wasn't, I didn't leave the house. I couldn't. Every time I stepped onto the porch, someone with a phone was waiting. Local news vans camped on our quiet Oak Park street like it was the Super Bowl. "Cheating bride arrested in $2 million scandal," screamed the headlines. My bakery's Instagram went from 8,000 followers to 180,000 overnight. Mostly hate comments calling me bitter, jealous, a Karen with a vendetta. I turned off the ringers, unplugged the landline, and let the voicemails pile up until the box was full. Richard never came home. He checked into a Marriott near O'Hare with one suitcase and the night of the wedding and never looked back. Ethan slept on the couch because he couldn't stand the silence of his childhood bedroom. We lived on cereal and tears. On day 9, Mia, my sister, my hero, showed up with 2 pizzas, a bottle of tequila, and a plan. "You're not hiding forever, Lar. We're cleaning this up one corpse at a time." She made me shower, put on real pants, and opened the front door. The cameras were gone. The street was quiet. That's when the second wave hit. The pity. Neighbors leaving casseroles on the porch with little notes. "We're praying for you. Call if you need anything." I wanted to scream that I didn't need tuna noodle. I needed my life back. The divorce papers were filed the Monday after the wedding. Richard didn't fight a single asset. He signed everything I asked for: the house, the remaining retirement accounts, my bakery business, even the stupid timeshare in Door County he'd always loved. His lawyer's email was 2 lines. "He understands this is the price. He will not contest." I stared at those words for an hour, waiting to feel triumph. All I felt was hollow. Sophia took a plea deal 3 weeks later. 3 years in Logan Correctional Center, $250,000 restitution, permanent disbarment. Her parents sold their North Shore mansion to cover legal fees. Judge Hargrove resigned from the bench in disgrace. I watched the news clip of Sophia being led away in handcuffs over her wedding dress 100 times. Each time I expected to feel good. I never did. Ethan started therapy the day after the wedding. I joined him the following week. Our therapist, Dr. Patel, was a tiny Indian woman with kind eyes and zero tolerance for bullshit. Week 4, she looked me dead in the face and said, "Laura, you're allowed to grieve the marriage and still hate the man. Those 2 things can coexist." I cried so hard I threw up in her trash can. The bakery almost died. For 6 weeks, orders flatlined. Brides didn't want the jilted mom making their wedding cake. Then something strange happened. A TikTok mom with 3 million followers posted a video tasting one of my raspberry lemon cakes and captioned it, "Made by the strongest woman I've ever seen. Order from her." The next morning, I had 400 inbox messages. I cried in the walk-in cooler while my assistant manager Rosa hugged me and said, "Mija, we're booked solid through next Christmas." We renamed the signature cake the Phoenix. It sold out every weekend. The first contact with Alex. 3 months after the wedding, a letter arrived. Handwritten envelope, no return address, postmarked from Logan Square. Inside was a single sheet in careful teenage boy handwriting. "Dear Mrs. Thompson, my name is Alex. I think I'm your husband's son. I saw the news. I'm so sorry for everything that happened. I never wanted to hurt anyone. If you never want to see me, I understand. But if you ever do, I make a pretty good deep dish. No pressure. Alex." I read it 17 times. Then I called Ethan. He was quiet for a long time. "Mom," he finally said, "he didn't ask to be born into this mess. I want to meet him." So we did. We met at Lou Malnati's on a rainy Thursday in September. Alex walked in wearing a Cubs hoodie 2 sizes too big, clutching a pizza box like a shield. He looked exactly like Richard at 16. Same crooked smile, same nervous habit of pushing hair out of his eyes, but softer, kinder. Vanessa, his mom, hovered behind him, exhausted and terrified. We sat in a corner booth. Nobody spoke for 5 full minutes. Then Ethan slid the pizza box open and said, "Deep dish with sausage. Bold choice. I respect it." Alex laughed, nervous, relieved, and something cracked open in the room. By the end of the night, Ethan had Alex's number in his phone under Little Bro. I cried in the parking lot. Happy tears for once. The first family dinner. Thanksgiving that year was the strangest and most sacred day of my life. Ethan insisted we host. I thought he was insane. He said, "Mom, we're building the family we actually want, not the one we were handed." So I cooked for 12 hours straight. Turkey, my grandmother's stuffing, 3 kinds of pie. Guests. Ethan. Me. Mia and her wife Carla. It was a Tuesday, just like every other Tuesday. Richard showed up at the bakery at 8:45 p.m. sharp to take out trash and sweep. We'd fallen into this quiet rhythm. 20 minutes of small talk about the boys, the weather, the Cubs' hopeless bullpen. Then he'd leave with a quiet, "Night, Lore," and I'd lock the door behind him without watching him walk away. It was safe. It was civil. It was enough. That night, he lingered longer than usual. He was wiping down the front case when his phone buzzed. He glanced at it, and every ounce of color drained from his face. "What?" I asked, already bracing.
"It's Northwestern Hospital," he whispered. "Vanessa's been in an accident. Alex was with her." We were in my SUV before I even grabbed my purse. The 20-minute drive to the ICU felt like 2 hours. Richard kept murmuring, please God, like a broken record. I drove 80 in a 55, hands shaking on the wheel, praying to a God, the universe, the Cubs, anyone who'd listen. Vanessa didn't make it. Single car rollover on the Kennedy. They said she fell asleep at the wheel coming home from her second job. Alex was in the passenger seat. Broken femur, collapsed lung, facial lacerations, but alive. When we burst into his room, he was unconscious. Tubes everywhere, face swollen beyond recognition. Richard dropped to his knees beside the bed and sobbed like I'd never heard a grown man sob. I stood frozen in the doorway, staring at this boy, my husband's secret son, who had somehow become my kid too, and realized the universe had just rewritten the rules again. Alex was in the hospital for 5 weeks. Richard and I took shifts like divorced parents who suddenly remembered how to co-parent. I brought homemade soup, Richard brought his laptop and worked remotely from the vinyl chair. We spoke in whispers about surgeries and rehab and insurance. At night, when Alex finally slept, we sat in the hallway drinking vending machine coffee and didn't talk about the past at all. One night, 3 a.m., Richard said, "I don't know how to be his dad now that she's gone." I answered without thinking, "Then be his father the way you never were before. Show up. Every day. No excuses." He looked at me like I'd handed him a lifeline. Alex came home, well, to my home, the day before Thanksgiving. He was 17 now, 6'2" on crutches, with a shaved head from surgery and a smile that still worked even through the pain meds. Ethan cleared out his old bedroom without being asked. We turned the guest room into a mini hospital ward, adjustable bed, walker, Xbox so he wouldn't lose his mind. The first night I tucked him in, yes, tucked a 17-year-old in, he grabbed my hand. He said, "I don't want to be a burden." I kissed his forehead like it was the most natural thing in the world. "You're not a burden, baby. You're family." End of story. Richard moved into the basement, not as a husband, as a father who had nowhere else to go and a son who needed him. We had one rule: the past stays in the past until Alex is healed, then we figure out the rest. The year we became a weird little village. Alex's recovery was brutal. 3 surgeries, physical therapy 3 times a week, night terrors that woke the whole house. Ethan took a leave from his landscape architecture program and moved back home. Maya, his girlfriend, basically became our live-in nurse, God bless her. Maya and Carla brought groceries every Sunday. Rosa closed the bakery early on Fridays so we could all have family dinner together. We were 6 adults and 1 broken-hearted teenager, living under one roof, trying to figure out how to be something that didn't have a name yet. Some nights, I'd find Richard asleep in the recliner beside Alex's bed, still holding his hand. Other nights, Alex would hobble downstairs at 2 a.m. looking for me because the nightmares were about the crash, about his mom's scream cut short. I'd make cinnamon toast and we'd watch old episodes of The Office until he fell back asleep on the couch, head in my lap like he was 7 instead of 17. One January night, snow piling up outside, Alex asked the question we'd all been dodging. "Do you hate my dad?" I was frosting cupcakes for a baptism order, hands covered in buttercream. "I don't hate him," I said carefully. "I hate what he did. There's a difference." Alex nodded slowly. "Do you think someday you could not hate what he's doing now?" I looked at the boy who had lost his mother, who called me Laura Mom when he thought I couldn't hear him, and I answered honestly. "I think someday is already here, kiddo. I just don't know what to call it." The letter Richard wrote and never sent. In March, Richard's therapist made him write an amends letter. He left it on the kitchen counter by accident or maybe on purpose. I read it when everyone was asleep. "Laura, I used to think love was grand gestures, flowers, vacations, making you laugh until you snorted. I was wrong. Love is showing up with a heating pad when your back goes out. Love is sleeping in a hospital chair for 37 nights. Love is learning how to French braid a teenager's hair for physical therapy because YouTube failed me. Love is watching the woman whose heart you shattered choose, every single day, to let your son call you mom anyway. I don't deserve forgiveness. I don't expect it. I just needed you to know I finally see you. And I'm sorry it took losing everything to open my eyes. Richard. I folded the letter, slid it into my apron pocket, and didn't mention it. But I stopped locking my bedroom door at night.
May brought spring, and with it, the first real test. Sophia got out of prison. She was 26 now, thin, hair cut short, eyes hard. She showed up at the bakery on a Saturday when we were slammed with graduation orders. I was piping roses when Rosa whispered, "Laura, she's here." Sophia stood by the door in jeans and a hoodie, looking small. "Can we talk?" she asked. I took off my apron, walked her to the back office, closed the door. She cried before she spoke. "I'm sober. I'm in therapy. I have nothing, Laura. My parents won't speak to me. I needed to say I'm sorry to your face." I let her talk. She told me about growing up in a house where love was conditional on perfection, how Richard made her feel seen, how power and manipulation got twisted into something she thought was love. When she finished, I said the only thing that felt true. "I believe you're sorry. I even believe you're changed. But you don't get to come back into our lives. Not Ethan's, not Alex's, not mine. Some bridges stay burned." She nodded, wiped her face, and left. I went back to piping roses with shaking hands. Richard found me an hour later crying in the walk-in. He didn't ask why. He just held me until I could breathe again. The summer of almosts. Alex turned 18 in June. We threw him a party in the backyard. String lights, Lou Malnati's, a bounce house because Ethan insisted he never got to be a kid. Richard grilled burgers and didn't flirt with anyone. Maya taught Alex how to make empanadas. At midnight, Alex pulled me aside. "I want to change my last name," he said, "to Thompson Ruiz. So I keep Mom, but I want to belong here too." I hugged him so hard, his ribs creaked. The paperwork was filed the next week. Ethan proposed to Maya on the 4th of July. He did it on the roof of the bakery at sunset with a ring he designed himself, rose gold with a tiny engraved phoenix. We all cried, even Richard. Richard and I started couples therapy, not to get back together, but to figure out how to be in the same room without bleeding on the kids. Our therapist, Dr. Patel, yes, same one, called it post-traumatic co-parenting. One session, she asked Richard, "What do you want from Laura that isn't about absolution?" He thought for a long time. "I want her to laugh at my jokes again, even the dumb ones." I snorted. Couldn't help it. Dr. Patel smiled. Progress. The day she rewrote the rules. March, year 9 after the wedding that wasn't. Ethan and Maya had planned a quiet courthouse wedding, followed by cake at the bakery. Luna Marie Thompson arrived 6 weeks early at 3:17 a.m., weighing 4 pounds 11 ounces, screaming like she was personally offended by the NICU lights. Ethan FaceTimed me from the delivery room, still in scrubs, tears and laughter mixing. "Mom, she's here, and she's perfect, and she already hates the swaddle." I drove to the hospital doing 90 on the Dan Ryan, walked into the room, and the second I held her, I started ugly crying so hard, the nurse asked if I needed oxygen. Richard showed up 20 minutes later with 2 stuffed bears and the most terrified expression I've ever seen on a grandfather. He whispered, "She's so small," like he was afraid his voice alone would break her. Luna grabbed his finger with her whole hand and didn't let go for 45 minutes. That was the moment Richard officially became Pop Pop forever. The first 3 months, survival mode, edition. Maya had postpartum preeclampsia and ended up back in the hospital for a week. Luna came home on a heart monitor that beeped every time she forgot to breathe, which was often. Our house turned into a 24-hour milk and diaper factory. Sleeping arrangements. Ethan and Maya in their old bedroom,
Luna's bassinet in our room because I couldn't sleep if I couldn't see her chest rise and fall. Richard on the couch with a baby monitor clipped to his t-shirt like a walkie-talkie. Alex sneaking in at 2 a.m. after studio all-nighters to take the 3 a.m. feeding so we could nap. We kept a shared Google Doc titled Lunalog, where we logged every ounce drunk, every poop, color, texture, enthusiasm level, and who was hallucinated the most from sleep deprivation. Richard's 4:12 a.m. entry still makes me laugh. Poop was the exact shade of wasabi. I have seen things, send help, or coffee, or both. Age 0 to 1. The reign of terror begins. Luna's personality showed up approximately 6 hours after birth and never left. Nicknames earned in the first year: General Luna by Ethan, Tiny Dictator by Alex, Her Royal Highness the Duchess of Chaos by Maya, Mi Reina by Rosa, Little Boss by Pop Pop, whispered in pure awe. Milestones: rolled over at 8 weeks and immediately tried to escape the playmat like a tiny jailbreak. First word at 9 months was no, directed at the dog who dared breathe in her direction. Learned to clap only when someone said yay cake, proving she's 100% my granddaughter. Walked at 10 months and immediately ran. At her first birthday, we did a smash cake in the bakery backyard. She took one look at the pink ombre cake, grabbed 2 fistfuls, looked me dead in the eye, and smeared it straight into Alex's hair while screaming, "Mine." The video has 3.2 million views on TikTok. Alex still hasn't forgiven her. Age 1 to 2. The bilingual terrorist phase. Luna became fluent in English, Spanish, and toddler screech. Favorite activities? Rearranging every cabinet in my kitchen at 5:30 a.m., feeding the dog entire sticks of butter when no one was looking, stealing Richard's reading glasses and hiding them in the flower bin, saying I love you only to immediately follow it with, "Go away, I busy." She called Richard Pop Pop, but called me Nana Cake because apparently that's a whole title. Every night she demanded the same bedtime routine. Book, Goodnight Moon or Buenas Noches Luna, depending on mood. Song, either You Are My Sunshine or the Daniel Tiger cleanup song, sung off-key by whoever lost rock, paper, scissors. One more hug, Nana Cake, repeated 17 times. Finally, a dramatic flop into crib with the proclamation, I sleep now, good night, fans. Age 2 to 3, the year she discovered negotiation. Sample conversations at 2.5. Luna, I want cookie. Me, after dinner. Luna, 2 cookies? Me, 1. Luna, 1.5. Me, fine. She high-fived herself. She also developed an obsession with boyfriend named Mateo at daycare. Every afternoon pickup. Me, how was your day, mija? Luna, Mateo said I'm pretty and gave me his fruit snacks, so we're getting married next week. Richard almost had a heart attack until we realized Mateo is 3 and proposed with a go-gurt. Potty training was a war. She refused to use the potty until Alex built her a potty throne out of an old bar stool painted gold with a crown on it. Worked in 2 days. We still call it the Royal Commode. Age 3 to 4. The Philosopher Queen. Luna started preschool and came home with questions that broke us daily. Nana Cake, why clouds not fall? If Pop Pop was bad before but he's good now, does that mean people can change their whole story? When I grow up, I be baker and a dinosaur. She became obsessed with my old viral videos. One night I caught her watching the original wadding expose on Ethan's iPad. He swears he doesn't know how she found it. She looked up at me with those huge brown eyes and asked, Nana, were you sad in this video? I said, very sad, baby. She crawled into my lap, patted my cheek and said, it's okay.
I hear now. I fix it. I cried into her curls for 20 minutes. Age 4 to 5, the current chaos, 2029. Right now, Luna is 4 3/4 and a half Nana. Current obsessions, unicorns that breathe cupcakes. She's very specific. Helping in the bakery, which means she mostly licks spatulas and judges my piping skills. Making Richard wear fairy wings and have tea parties with her stuffed animals. Calling Alex Tio Lex and demanding he carry her piggyback everywhere. Last month, she lost her first tooth. The tooth fairy, me in a ridiculous tutu at midnight, left $5 and a note. She woke up, read the note, she's already reading Lord Help Us, and marched downstairs. Nana Cake, the tooth fairy has your handwriting. Are you magic? I panicked. Richard saved me by saying, the tooth fairy hires grandmas as assistants. It's a union thing. She bought it completely. The thread that runs through it all. Every milestone, every meltdown, every 3 a.m. fever, every first day of school picture has the same people in the background. Ethan and Maya, exhausted but glowing. Alex, turning up with dino nuggets and college-level patience. Richard on the floor letting her paint his nails sparkly purple. Me, covered in flour and pure wonder that this tiny hurricane is ours. We never planned for Luna to be raised by a village that was forged in betrayal and rebuilt in grace. But here's the miracle nobody talks about. She will never know a world where love is conditional. She will never wonder if people can change because she watches her pop-pop choose redemption every single day. She will never doubt she belongs because she has a Nana Cake who bakes phoenix cakes, a Tio Lex who builds thrones, and parents who learn how to love out loud from the best and worst of us. Last week, she asked me to teach her how to pipe roses. I put her on a step stool, put the piping guide in her tiny hands, and guided her little fingers. She made a wobbly, perfect mess and looked up at me with pure joy. Look, Nanner, I made a flower for you. And I realized the circle is complete. The little girl who was born from ashes just handed me a buttercream rose and called it love. So that's Luna's early years so far. Equal parts chaos, glitter, and stubborn, sticky hope. She is living proof that sometimes the greatest love stories aren't between two people. They're between a whole broken, beautiful village and the tiny tyrant who taught us how to be soft again. If you're raising a Luna of your own right now, or you are one, comment the word rose, because every wobbly flower is still a masterpiece. I love you all.